Hello everyone. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome, and if it's not, welcome back. I'm really excited about today's video as we're playtesting with one of the new leaders from set 3 that just came out. The leader is Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci's effect is whenever you KO a character from one of your opponent's characters, you can discard 2 cards to restand him. So he's a really good finisher. It makes it to where if your opponent has a blocker at the end of the game, it kind of doesn't matter. And it just gives black a little bit of a boost and a power up, which I think it desperately needed. The deck itself is a lot of fun, and you get to have a lot of new cards, which are a lot of the CP9 cards, and they kind of have really good synergy with the Navy. For the deck profile itself, we have for Suru, which is just your 2k counter. For Brand New, which is a searcher, I forgot to say, in this version I am running the Navy CP9 mix. There is another version that runs the air door, but we'll cover that in a different video. We're running 4 of the Fukuro, which is a really good blocker that black gets, which is it cannot be KO'd by effects regardless of the turn. Running 4 of the Tashigi, which is another 2k counter. 4 Khalifa, which is a new 2k counter that black gets. She also has a lot of utility in that she lets you cycle through your hand. We're running 4 of the Kuzan, just really good versatility, lets you draw a card on play, and you can reduce the cost of your opponent's characters. 4 Borsalino, which is just a really good blocker. Running 4 Kaku, which is a new card that came out in set 3, and what he can do is on play you can return 2 CP cards from your graveyard to the bottom of your deck, and you can KO a 3 cost. So with pairing him with your Kuzan, you can KO up to a 7 cost. Running 4 of Bluno, which is also a new card from the set. It is a 5/6 that could be a blocker if you attach a Dawn, and at the same time when it's KO'd you can resummon one of your 4 cost CP cards. Running 3 of the Garp just for extra removal. 4 of the Sakazuki for removal. 3 Isho, which is a new boss monster that black received, which can cause, if your opponent has 6 cards or more on play, he automatically makes them discard 2. And then we're running 4 Impact Wave for a little bit of extra defense and to help a little bit with removal. But yeah, so that's the deck profile. Let's get into some gameplay. So for the first match, we have a matchup against Luffy. Black normally struggles with red, so we'll kind of see how it goes. I'm going first in this match. You normally want to go second as black, but you don't always, unfortunately, get the choice. I swing for 6 here, and then I'm gonna play my Brand New. Since I have 2 Dawn, and it's the new searcher for the deck. I could have played the Fukuro, but kind of want to just cycle some cards. Brand New does make it to where you search 3, and then whatever you don't get goes to the trash. My opponent plays an Izo and draws a OP03 Marco, which is an OP card that came out in the new set, and puts 2 Dawn on the Dawn, swings for 5. I decided to counter out of this one as he's probably going to put 2 Dawn under his leader and swing for 7. I don't want to take 2 damage too early, especially against red. I'm on 5 Dawn now, so I could play my Kaku here. I decide to swing with the Brand New first at the Dawn. He lets it go. And then I do play my Kaku to get rid of the Izo. I arguably should have swung with the leader first in case I have a pistol. So it was a slight misplay on my part. He plays the 5-drop Marco, KOs my Brand New, uses leader ability, and then swings for 7, which I take. I'm now on 7 Dawn, so I can't play my Isho quite yet. Just kind of trying to do some math here. I do have a Fuku that I can play in hand. I have a Borsalino. I have a Brand New. I decide to swing for 7 first, see what my opponent wants to do. He decides to take. Then I swing with my leader. Could have arguably put the Dawn on Kaku and swung with my leader first, but either way, he was probably going to get out of one of the swings. Then I have 6 Dawn. I play a Brand New and get either a Suros or a Sakazuki. I decide to get the Sakazuki. And that's at 4 Dawn, and I decided to play the Kuzan just to My opponent's running low on cards in hand, and so I'm just trying to get a little bit of a hand advantage against him. And this way, so my opponent's getting closer and closer to the possibility of a Whitebeard. So I already have set up for him in case he does play it. Although he uses Fire Fist, which is a new event for this set, which you can discard another event and you can KO a 5k character and a 4k character. So he uses that on my brand new and my Kuzan, puts a Dawn under the Marco, and swings for 7, which I counter out of. And then he swings for 10 at my Kaku. I have enough to protect it, so I decide to do that. I get rid of the Fukuro. I probably should have done the Borsalino instead, just because Fuku's a little bit of a cheaper blocker. My opponent only has 3 cards in hand, so Isho wouldn't be used to its full potential here. But I still think playing the Isho is probably the right play. Swing for 7 at life. My opponent's shown that he likes to counter a good bit early. But there, I probably could have swung Kaku at the Marco and then put 1 Dawn on leader and swung at the Marco. Now I would have got 2 cards out of his hand. He does play the Whitebeard here, and thankfully I have my Isha already in play, and swings for 7 and doesn't swing with the Marco. Probably doesn't have anything in hand to defend it. I get a Kaku out of life, and then I draw a Borsalino. And here I actually have exactly enough to get rid of the Whitebeard. With using the Isho, it puts it down to 6. Then I have a Tashigi in hand. I kind of spaced out for a second and forgot that the leader was at 7. So it's kind of a major misplay on my part. But either way, here it kind of makes it to where my my Kaku is semi a blocker if my opponent decides he wants to attack into it. And then I was able to get rid of the Whitebeard, which honestly was just the biggest threat. Kind of swings the tempo in my favor a little bit again, especially since I have the Sakazuki on board now. Swings for 5. I counter out of. Just want to try to counter out of as many of the swings as I can. And I take both of them because I do have a Borsalino blocker in case I need it. But here I'm probably just going to swing 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Uses a Radical Beam to get out of 1. Counters out of the second attack. And I'm doing a little bit of math here because I technically can still use leader ability. So I swing for 10 my opponent takes. Then I swing for 10 again, which he takes as well. I swing into the Izo to restand my leader. And then I swing for 10 again, and then my opponent just, he doesn't have the counter to get out of. So that's a GG for the first game. For the second game, we have a matchup against Law. My opponent decides to go second. Same thing most of the time. You see black, most people are going to make you, if they get to choose, most people are going to make you go first, unfortunately. And he is playing a little bit of an interesting build here with the Dagra that lets you play another red 1-drop. So it just helps you spam the board a little bit quicker. I put 1 Dawn on leader, swing for 6. Most of the time Law is going to take, and then I play a brand new. I can get either 2k or a Garp. I already have a Garp, so I decided to get another 2k. Most of the time in games, you want to look for the win conditions for each match. And this one, some of the smaller characters kind of help, so you can contest the board a little bit more. He does use the Dogra's ability to play a Nami for free. He gets a Zoro out of it. Swings for 5. So I'm just going to take. And I get a Kaku. Kaku is very important in this matchup. As you, outside of the 5 drops, you can get rid of most of the characters that they play. There I take. That was possibly a little bit of a misplay. I should have countered out with a CP card, and then I could have played the Kaku and got free value. This was still early testing, so I was still figuring out the deck a little bit, learning how to play it optimally. Either way, I had the Garp as well, so I felt pretty safe. And now that I've play tested a lot more, I've definitely realized though that you want to, if you have to get rid of either the Borsalino or the Fukuro, you probably want to get rid of the Borsalino, just because, like I said, the Fukuro is a cheaper blocker. It's just a little bit more Dawn efficient, and at the end of the day, a blocker is a blocker, and Fuko can't be KO'd. My opponent plays a Dadan, draws an Otama, but I'm a little ahead at this point, because I was able to clear his board and start getting rid of some of his characters. Puts one under Nami to swing at the brand new. Just let it go. Swings for 5. I should counter out of this. And so now, I get rid of the Khalifa so that I can have 2 CP cards in the grave. I didn't want to get rid of my Bluno because it can be a blocker, but my opponent has a Zoro, so he kind of makes me anyway. I'm at 7 Dawn, so I could play a Tashigi and a Borso. I swing first into the Nami to see what my opponent wants to do. I should swing for 7 with the Garp. I decide to swing at the Zoro. See if my opponent wants to try to save it or let it go. If he lets it go, then I can clear his entire board. And if not, either way, I can KO the Zoro with the Kaku. He decides to try to save it as he needs to preserve his board a little bit. And this is Black has a really good matchup into Law, and it's simply because you have so much control. In this version specifically, I mean, with your Sakazukis, with your Garps, with your Kakus, you have a lot of removal, and that's what Law struggles against. The other version, the Air Door version, is a little bit more of like a mid type of game where you're using your Air Doors to try to spam your 5 characters out. So you still have some removal in the Kaku, but it's just not, you're not playing Kuzan, so you don't have that cost reduction. So it's just a different play style. My opponent uses a Bonnie, gets a Law, and plays a Zoro. I counter out of it. Puts 2 Dawn under the Dawn. And I decide to counter out of it. I do use a 2K because I don't want to get rid of one of my blockers. And then here, I'm not attacking my opponent's life because I'm just dwindling down his resources. That's how you beat Law. You make it to where they just run out of resources little by little by little, and then you just go big and swing at face. I swing for 6 because I thought about playing the Sakazuki, and then I could play a brand new. But instead, or I can play a Kuzan and a Borsalino, which is what I decide to do. If you had to save the Zoro, then maybe I play the Sakazuki, but I kind of want to save the Sakazukis for their blocker laws. at this point, I'm pretty in control of the game. So as long as I just keep playing it correctly, my opponent shouldn't be able to get back into it. He swings for 5 with the Dodon. I just counter out it with the brand new. He swings for 5 again. Seeing how much Dawn he has. He's used a lot of Zoros, so he probably doesn't have too many more. He does play the 5-drop Law, replays the Dodon, gets a Makino. Plays a Chopper and a Makino, and then leaves 1 Dawn up, possibly for Radical Beam. But he is still at 3 life, so it's not live quite yet. I use my Garp's ability to get rid of the Chopper. Then I use my Sakazuki to get rid of his Law. And then here now I start swinging at face a little bit more. I swing for 5 with the Kuzan, which he takes as he's going to want the resources. I swing for 7. And then I swing for 8, which now here, if he has a Radical Beam, probably use the Radical Beam. He doesn't. He decides to take, so he probably doesn't have a Radical Beam and was just leaving it up as a bluff. Decided to get a little bit more aggressive there at that point because I still have a Borsalino, I still have 2 life, and I have a full board. So now I have it on the. It does give my opponent a little bit of an opportunity to kind of restabilize, especially if he gets some searchers out of life. But as long as I have my Garp and my Kuzan, then I can kind of get rid of any blockers or any cards that he plays. Which that's what's really nice about this version specifically is the Garp can put in a lot of work. Against the yellow matchup, you can use Garp to get rid of like the Smoothies, the Crackers, the Peros, the Brulee blockers. If they play Daifuku, you can get rid of Daifuku. Swings for 5. I take. I don't want to block with the Borsalino just yet. And he plays the 8-drop Kid, which if he has another blocker in hand, you'd think would be a little scary, but because I have Kuzan here, it really doesn't matter, because I can use Kuzan to lower it by 4. So I put 3 Dawn under it just to see if he'll give me a card first. Either way, I'm going to get rid of it, but I didn't want to just waste a swing. He does give me a card to try to protect it, and then I just use my Garp to get rid of it. And then now here, I'll just swing for 7 with the Kaku. Then swing 7 again, since he only has 1 card in hand. And then just put everything under leader. And my opponent gives up. That is a GG for game 2. Now for the third and final game, we have a matchup against Smoker. So it is a black leader versus a black leader, and once again I'm made to go first, which between the 2 versions, between the air door version and maybe in the CP9 version, this one does a little bit better at going first because you have Garp, Bluno, and Kaku, all of which are 5-drops, which kind of help you. In the other version, you more so just have the Bluno and the Kaku. On my second turn, I swing, same thing as the others. I swing for 6, then I play my brand new. No, but let me know in the comments what deck you guys are most excited to play. There's finally going to be a little bit of a shakeup in the meta. I mean, it's unfortunately Whitebeard and Zoros are going to be really prominent and really strong, but at least now here, black gets a little bit of a boost. You get yellow, which is a new color. Crocodile does okay this set. My opponent swings and I get blessed and hit an impact wave out of life after he played the Borsalino. So that's why you should always swing with leader first and then play your characters, just in case, because Borsalino can die on your own turn. I decide to swing for 5 here. My opponent takes, and then I play a Bluno and pass. Kept my my Kaku and my Garp in hand. You wanna save your removal for when you really need it. That's the way you lose this black, is if you use your removal incorrectly. Plays another Borsalino and then a Don Quixote blocker. Swings for 5, which I take. Then here I swing for 6 with the Bluno. He blocks. Then here I have a lot of options. I could play the Kuzan and the Fuko. I could play Borsalino and a Fuko. I could play the Garp or the Kaku, and then leave 2 up for the impact wave. So I just kind of swing 5 to see what my opponent does. He decides to take. He was probably scared that I would put Dawn on the brand new and attack the Borsalino. But he could have blocked with the Borsalino. Uses his leader ability, gives my Bluno -1, and then uses the Garp to get rid of it. But I do have a Khalifa in Grave, which my Bluno on KO summons. And then when she's played, I get to draw 2 and then trash 2. So it just kind of helps you cycle a little bit more. I want to keep my removal, which is why I get rid of some 2Ks. I have the Kuzan on board now, so almost anything is in range of removal at this point. He does leave 2 up, so he could have his own impact wave. I swing for 5 just to see what my opponent wants to do. Here my opponent I make my opponent have to kind of worry about a lot of things, right? Like one, taking whether he takes the life or not. I lower the Garp's level, so it makes him worry about whether or not I'm gonna try to destroy it or not. And then here I swing for 5, 5, 5. So it was a little bit of a misplay on my part. Before I swung with the Khalifa, I should have played the Isho. While he was still at 6 cards, that way I guaranteed 2 cards out of his life. I decided to go the route of going wide on the board instead of going tall. And the reason for that is if he happens to have his own form of removal, then I play the Isho, then my Isho is just gone. But here, black struggles with a lot of attacks most of the time because you don't have a lot of counter in hand. So most of the time, swinging for 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 is more effective than just one tall attack. And then that's kind of what I'm opting for in this matchup. Although I could have played the Isho as well, and they could have been fine, especially because I would have got 2 cards out of his hand. He plays the 5-drop Smoker and a 3-drop, then swings for 7 at my Kuzan, which I'm going to block with one of the Fukuros. And then he passes. I draw a Bluno, swing for 5 at life. It doesn't matter which one I choose at this point because none of his characters can be KO'd. I like to swing for 5 when they have a Borsalino and I have a bunch of attackers, because if he blocks, and I can target it and kind of go after it. And he's low on hand size, and so I like making those small attacks because it makes him have to decide. It makes him misplay a little bit more, or possibly misplay a little bit more. So I just swing 5, 5, 5. Well, here, once I get rid of the Borsalino, then I can go a little bit taller. I just go 7. He only has 2 cards in hand, so he either has to give me the 2 or take the life. I play a Borsalino and pass. I leave 3 Dawn up, which doesn't really matter. I can't really do too much with it, but I guess I probably could have attacked for 6 with the Kuzan, and that probably would have been a little bit more Dawn efficient, but or 6 with the Khalifa. But it's okay. It worked out. Either way, we got rid of the Borsalino. We got some cards out of hand. We took a life. Swings for 7 at the Kuzan, which I just counter out of. I don't want to block quite yet because the smoker is scary. Me misplaying around a smoker attack could be what lets my opponent come back into this game. He swings for 7. I use my impact wave to save it. Don't want to use my blockers as well because I can use them as attackers next turn if my opponent doesn't play any blockers. He does swing pretty big at the Kuzan, so I do block that one with my Fukuro because I don't have any more counter in hand. Then I just swing for 5. He takes, and then I swing. I could arguably just put everything under leader here, but I just swing for 7. And then my opponent just gives up because he sees that I have game anyway. And so with that, that is a GG. Now for the final thoughts, the new cards from this set give black a huge power boost, which it desperately needed. It does still struggle specifically against yellow. Yellow is a pretty hard matchup. Lucci itself is a very difficult deck to play. So Lucci, Ace, and Law are 3 decks that are all really good, but are not beginner friendly, unfortunately. You have to know when to use your removal, when to play a little bit more aggressive, what types of your characters to play at specific times, or when to use your counter, because unfortunately in this version of the deck you don't have too much counter, since you're running 4 Kuzan, which doesn't have counter, 3 Garb, 4 Sakazuki, 3 Isho, and even the impact wave. When you have the Dawn up, it works as counter, but when you don't, then it's just a dead card in hand and it has no counter. So you just have to be really careful about the plays that you make, and you kind of have to think about them a little bit more, because if not, and you just start using your removal willy-nilly, then you'll just fall behind on resources and your opponent is just kind of gonna steamroll you. I am going to be posting another video at some point using the air door version, which through playtesting I've found to be a little bit more consistent. This version has a little bit of a higher ceiling, but the other version, just the fact that you can play a 4 Dawn card, spam out a 5 cost, and immediately have their effects live, so you can play the air door and use Kaku's ability immediately, is really, really nice. But this one is really good. This version is more efficient against Law and against Ace, decks that don't have a lot of board presence, or decks that you want to not have a lot of board presence. But with that, Lucci is probably my favorite new leader that came out, or the one that I'm most interested in playing. Katakuri's up there as well, just because it's a new game mechanic, but Lucci is the one that I'm most interested in, just because of the skill level that it takes to play. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. I really appreciate all the support, and with that, I hope that you all have an amazing day.